Hey guys, Brad here. Are you a new investor or are you a seasoned investor that enjoys the podcast, but you just can't seem to wrap your head around notes and subject to creating wraps as well as the various other things that I talk about? There's one thing that I see that is really common with most real estate investors, especially wholesalers, and it's this. If you aren't creating notes, then you are leaving more money on the table than you are actually making. If you want to change this in your business, then reach out to me at brad@bradsmotherman.com. We are opening our apprentice program in just a few weeks, and in this program, we work together on deals, one-on-one, and we profit share in your local market. Are you ready to have a real mentor instead of just buying another course? Reach out to me, brad@bradsmotherman.com. Hey guys, wanted to give you guys a quick introduction to this episode. So my good friend Jerry Ricci, he had been down to Huntsville to speak at a real estate investor association. So he was coming back up through Nashville, and Jerry and I had done deals together in Pittsburgh. Well, my good friend and mentor, David Alexander, he said, hey, if you guys are getting together, I'm going to fly in and we're going to have basically a 2-day mini-mastermind. And so that's what we did. And so this episode was basically recorded at my office. We were just all sitting around the table and talking about the state of the real estate investing world. And then I kind of pushed them into, hey, what's some of your craziest deals? So we're going to hear about that, especially the deal with Jerry, where he, with his leadership, was able to get a bank to make a very, very bad decision. So you're going to want to stick around for that. But the one thing that I want to say is this. I cannot overemphasize how important it is to spend time with people that are going to bring you up. And so for years, I've been around David and Jerry, and they've been a super big catalyst in my explosive growth in the real estate investing world. And it was just so much fun to have them here. You know, it's like they've never been to my office, and it was kind of just like football homecoming or something. I'm not sure, but we just had a great time, and it was just so much fun to be around them. So I actually clicked record without telling them. And then I think at some point they kind of realized that I was recording because I'd set the mic in the middle of the table. So anyway, this is kind of a candid snapshot into our conversations of what we're talking about when we're together. And I hope you enjoy it. I think you're going to like it.
So, I think the problem with real estate investors now is that are people starting out. We'll call them real estate investors. In fact, that's one of the deals. Everybody calls themselves a real estate investor. They're not real estate investors. You know, they want to play real estate investor, have the moniker real estate investor, but they're not real estate investors. They want to go out here and flip a deal or wholesale a deal, and that makes them think they're a real estate investor. But as they're getting started out here and they're doing it, nowadays it seems like more and more people come in, they just want to flip a house. And they're not looking behind that house to see what's really happened. They're not finding out, is there a problem that needs to be solved? Is there a need that they can fill? Is that seller truly motivated? Because everything you do in this business starts with a motivated seller. If you go out here and you just sign up a house and you're trying to flip it, and you're not really paying attention to motivation, you're missing out on the biggest deals, the best deals, because that motivation for somebody to get something done where you can solve their needs and make a profit is what is paramount to this business. You have to be able to find motivated sellers. I've got some of my people nowadays that they'll bring deals to me and they'll start talking to me about the deal. And, it used to be common when I talk to a seller, the first thing I'd start telling me about, they tell me about the peach trees in the backyard or the rose bush on the side of the house. And you got to listen to all that. You got to listen to all their stories. They expect you to listen to them. And they're trying to sell you on the house before they got to what was really happening.
Right.
And now I have the people that I train, I talk to, they'll call and when they haven't figured out about the motivated seller part of it, that component, they'll call me up and they'll start trying to sell me on the peach trees in the backyard and how many square foot it is. And, oh my gosh, this house is beautiful. And I'm like, quit trying to sell me the damn house. Is the seller motivated? Can we make something work here? Because 9 times out of 10, if a seller is motivated, you can put a deal together. But you have to dig to find out that motivation, to figure out what's going on there.
The thing you got to remember is there are more wholesalers in business right now than ever before.
Yeah.
But to survive, to be a real estate investor, wholesaling is not going to get it done. Once the market corrects, which it will, it's just a matter of time. It always does. It has since the history of real estate began. We'll always have corrections. The wholesalers are the first to go. because you're going in, you're not trying to define what the problem is, and you're going in almost wanting the house more than what that house can provide for you down the road over the years. I'm all about cash flow. And so I want to look at that property to see not what it can do 30 days from now, but within the next 30 years, 15 to 30 years, I want to see what that house can provide as far as income. So when you do have the market correction, you're going to see all these wholesalers are going to be gone. Many of them.
Yes.
Many of them. The survivors are the ones that have focused on the cash flow, focused on the reason why that home is for sale right now, and identified a way to solve a problem and make money. And for me, it's money long term, not just over the next 30 days.
Yeah, I had actually my bookkeeper, she pulled up a house the other day. She was putting some of the deals in, and she was going back through one of the deals, and she said, well, you've made $40,000 on that house. I said, no, I didn't make $40,000. I think I've only got I think on that particular house, I only had like $15,000 equity in it. Not very much. It was, not a big payday for me. She goes, no. She goes, you've had that house for 8 years and you've made $40,000 on it over the period of 8 years.
So made 40 on 15.
Yeah, 40,000 on 15.
Passive.
Yeah, 5,000 a year. That's a 30% return year after year, and it'll keep producing that for another 15 years.
Right.
It's a note deal, and these people miss that. They just want to flip something. Let me flip something. Let me get something under contract, and they don't learn their business. They don't learn their craft. They just want to jump in the horde, so to speak, and it all starts with that motivation.
Well, wholesalers and rehabbers, they're like long lost cousins in the fact that you're only as good as your last closing. You're only as good as your last closing.
Yeah.
Where what we're doing in this room, it's a lot different because we have built up, like you just said, from years and years and years. And once that snowball begins to go downhill, we're not going down a small hill here. We're going down Everest.
Yeah.
And who was it? Einstein said the most serious force in the universe is compounding interest.
Yeah.
Right. Eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. And you're right. As you build up your cash flow, you have the lifestyle that you want. You don't have to worry about the other things. It's just, I see these people focused on this, like the next deal. It's like, I was very fortunate when I started this business. From the get go, I came in wanting to build cash flow. I guess I just got really, really lucky. Probably because I didn't have any money and didn't have the money to rehab a property or to flip it off, whatever. I had to sell it and sell it quick to make it produce cash flow, or I was stuck.
Right. Yeah. The people that survive in this business are the ones that are going to figure out how to make money while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's enticing. You've got a property here that you might be able to make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, or you've got that same property that you might be able to figure out a way to make it produce a couple $100 a month. Well, we figured out a way to do both. We figured out a way to get $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 on the front end and stay in the deal.
Yeah.
And that's the key. So we're making those nice wholesaler fees on the front end.
Yeah.
And we continue in the deal so that when we go on our cruises, when we go on our vacations, we come back to bank accounts that have filled up automatically. And that's where you need to get to survive in this business.
Yeah, 100%. And I really feel bad for wholesalers because at least the rehabbers, they're doing kind of the same business except for the construction. In other words, the wholesalers spending all the time marketing to find the deal. And that's where the money's made anyways, finding the deal and getting that deal,
right?
Whether you're wholesaling or rehabbing. But then the wholesaler turns around and says, okay, Mr. Rehabber, take this deal. I'll take $5,000, even though I did the lion's share of the work to maintain that profit or to capture that profit. It's just like, good Lord, man. Guys, and I talked about this on another episode. I had a wholesaler friend of mine call me, and they were doing between 100 and 200K in gross wholesale commissions each month. Okay. And now they're in the red because their marketing's not working like it used to. It seems like the equity positions of people that were selling in some of these markets is kind of drying up because the ones that wanted to sell for a certain amount, they've already done so. And he's a little bit concerned, and he's built up this conglomerate, 18 or so staff people and 100. I don't know if it's quite 100 now, but I know at one point he's doing 100K per month in marketing. It's just like, good Lord, man. I mean, I do not want that position.
Yeah. So the other day I got drugged into a real estate meetup, and it was kind of a wholesaler breeding ground, if you will. We get in there, and so one of the wholesalers, they pop up and they're really giving the guy kudos, and he did like 40 deals last year, and he made more than 250,000. I think it was closer to 300,000. I mean, it's good money by anybody's standards. But my apprentices are sitting there, and it was funny. They can appreciate that they're sitting there and they're listening. They're sitting there thinking, "Good God, if we do what we're learning, from now, how to do it now and keep it long term and keep it producing income, 40 deals and we're done.
Yeah,
we don't have to work again
completely.
We're out."
And how many of those 40 deals could that wholesaler have done correctly?
Yeah, had he known, had he just known how to tweak things just a little bit, so he could do the deals himself and go through the whole deal. And 40 deals for him was 300,000. 40 deals in my world is 1.2 million.
Oh yeah.
And that, the 1.2 million is 10,000 a month the rest of your life. But this poor guy is going to have to get up again this year and do 40 deals again.
Yeah.
And then 40 deals again and 40 deals again. The problem is that his lifestyle will probably increase substantially because he made so much money. And as his lifestyle increases, it gets harder for him.
That's the trap.
There's the trap. He gets there next year, and if he can't do 40 deals again, he can only do 18. And guys, I've had years where I've done 3 deals, and then I've had years where I've done 50. I mean, it happens different. It doesn't always pan out, and you have to be able to weather that storm. I remember one particular time I went for 9 months, and it just nothing would seem to gel right. Like, ever seller thought I was, I was the elephant man or something. I don't know what was going on, but I couldn't put a deal together. And then, let alone make my phone ring like it should. Then all of a sudden, something opened up, and bam, I just started hitting them again left and right. It changed, and everything happened. And all of a sudden, I started having $100,000 months again. But you got to be able to weather that storm. And if you're just a wholesaler,
there's no way to do that.
It reminds me of the frog in the water. If you slowly turn the heat up, that frog's done. He's going to sit there until it's too late. Well, that's what I see happening with the wholesalers. They're making good money, okay? And what do Americans do? We increase our lifestyle. We increase our burn rate. So when the market corrects, and all of a sudden, instead of doing 2, 3, 4 deals every month, now they're doing 1, or the deals they get aren't closing within the 30 days. Now all of a sudden, that golden goose is not laying eggs anymore. And what's left? A boiling frog. That's it.
Yeah.
Now that's what happened to me when I first started. I remember, so when I very first started, I wanted to be in the note business. I wanted to own notes. And then somehow I got out of the note business, and we started fixing every house. And we'd flip some, and then we'd rent some out. We'd do different things because I was buying them too fast, and I didn't know how to sell. I thought I knew how to sell houses. And so in the beginning, I started collecting houses. But the problem was we were collecting houses, and that's exactly what happened. That burn rate, all of a sudden the turnaround time, when I first started buying them, back then we didn't have FHA seasoning, none of that stuff.
Yeah. So
we could literally flip a house in 45 days, 30 days, as long as it was long to get it done. Boom, it was in there, out of there. And so we could just turn them. But then all of a sudden it went from 30 days, and then 60, and then 90, then 120. And you get dependent on those cash pops. You get dependent on that crack.
Right.
And so we got dependent on that crack of those cash pops. And all of a sudden, when they're not coming as fast as we need, we had to adjust. And if you can't adjust and you can't create a business model that works for that, you have to have a business model that works, that constantly feeds you and builds your cash flow. And if you don't, you're screwed.
Right.
What's the biggest mistake, David, you think you've made across your career?
Biggest mistake I've made across my career? 3 mistakes, actually. 3 mistakes. Early on, I didn't learn how to sell houses. I mean, truly learn how to sell houses. I depended on the market to sell houses because I thought I was a genius.
Yeah.
So that was my first mistake. I didn't. I started in 97. I didn't figure out that I didn't know how to sell houses until around 2001, and I didn't really figure out how to sell houses until 2003. I thought I knew how to sell them, but most of that was market driven, not system driven. So that was one. The other is, as I built my portfolios, as you know, I built portfolios and created them and built them and created them and whatnot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here still doing this. as I built them up or whatever, I would say that I didn't deleverage some of my portfolio. So like right now, I'm in the process of every deal I do for the next 6 months or so will go to a cash flow deleveraging stance where all that cash flow will be used to deleverage, because I'm at a place now where my income's okay, but I need to deleverage. Mm-hmm. And so I'll deleverage some short-term money, and then when I have to deleverage that, then I'll go after the long-term money. Mm-hmm. And so that will be the next mistake. So you have to build up, set up a base, deleverage some, then go back again, build up, and then deleverage. So leverage, deleverage, leverage, deleverage, leverage, deleverage. And so that would be the other mistake. Then the third one would be I was good at leveraging people. Before I ran my business, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, where I ran and I had employees and I had a nut every month. Mm-hmm. And now I don't have that. I have people that more work with me. They're apprentices and they work with me. I help them learn so they can get their learning curve faster, but it allows me to leverage my time. And I wish I would have figured out that leverage in the, way back in the beginning. Because if I would have figured that out, I would be a lot further ahead now. So would they. I mean, it's, whereas my learning curve, I've been doing this for over 20 years now. And so, ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. But, this time around when I build it up, you would think, and I started when I was 30, and you would think that, hey, I should be done by now completely. But here I am rebuilding stuff, and so this time when I build it, I'm old enough now that, I don't get another chance really. I mean, but I'm having fun. I'm having fun teaching others and doing it. So I would say the mistake of not leveraging other people in a way that didn't put a burden on my business.
Yeah. In
other words, building. So the apprentice program that I have, that y'all have too. Mm-hmm. It doesn't put a burden on my business. It doesn't create a burn rate for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about craziest deals.
Okay.
So I know in this room, who knows how many transactions we've done.
Yeah.
What's the craziest deals that come to mind?
I've got to take a call, so I'm going to go first here with one that it was just kind of weird. That the fella called me. He saw one of my bandit signs, and he said he wanted me to buy his house, and he had a home in an area that was okay. It's an okay area, a decent area, decent school system. But the homes in the area were selling between $30,000 and $70,000. So he called me up and he wanted to sell me the house around $35,000, which was a pretty decent deal until I kind of started digging a little bit and found out he was from the Pittsburgh area. He owned his home way about an hour and a half north of there, and just didn't want it anymore. Wanted to get rid of it. So we couldn't. I couldn't see driving down there after talking to him about the property. There was quite a few updates that needed to be done. So I just kind of ended the conversation and moved on. He was at 35 or 38, I can't remember. And when I got off the phone with him, back then my phone, it still does, it rings pretty often, but I got on another call. And as I'm on this other call, I hear another call trying to come in, and I see his number come up, and I couldn't get off the phone. I was deep in this conversation with another seller.
So the former seller that you just got off the phone with was calling back.
Calling back again.
Okay.
Yeah. So he called back again, and so I didn't message him or anything. I just kept on focusing on the call I was on. Well, then he called a second time, and then he called a third time. And this call lasted about 45, maybe 50 minutes, and he had called back 3 times already during that time. So I get off the phone, and I rather than calling him right back, I wanted to hear what he had to say. He left messages each time. So the first time he says, I understand where you're coming from. I'll take 28 for the house. And
so they came from 35 to 28.
Like that. Okay. Then I went to the second message, and he says, you didn't get back to me. And this is within 45 minutes, right? He says, you didn't get back to me. He goes, 20 is my final number. I'll go to 20. And I said, okay. So I'm thinking about it, and I see the third message. So I get on the third message. He goes, if you'll do 15 and you can close quickly, we'll get this done. We'll get this done quickly. So I get off listening to him, and I told my wife, I says, come here, you got to hear this. So I turn on each one, and she's like, call him back. And I'm like, no, he might call one more time. So I'm waiting for the next negotiation. Yeah. So we did end up, I got the property under contract for, I think, $11,000. There was some work that needed to be done. I ended up giving him $3,000 at closing, and the city wanted some things done to the property that I had to do for a couple $1,000. But it was just kind of funny is my best negotiation skill was not answering that phone at the time when he was calling back, but it's kind of weird that way.
Cool.
So define craziest.
I don't know, man. Just whatever comes to mind.
Whatever comes to mind.
I mean, maybe best profit, worst deal, craziest seller.
Oh my gosh.
Who knows?
Yeah. There's easy deals. There's crazy deals. There's, I think like some of the craziest stuff though has to be when I first started. So the one that for me is the craziest, and I've talked about this before with other people, was when I first started, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I'm green, and all I had was energy. And I remember going and looking at this dump of a house. I mean, dump. Like, today, if I saw that same house, I wouldn't pay $15,000, $18,000 for it. And I paid $40,000.
And that was 15 years ago.
It was 15 years ago. I paid $40,000 for this house. It was a Jim Walters type house. So it was like the step up from a mobile home sort of thing. It was a Jim Walters house. It's fallen down. The good news is on 3 acres. There's a mobile home in back. But I'm negotiating with a seller that lives in Nevada. Mm-hmm. And so she lives in Nevada. She's got a problem. She's motivated. She wants to get it done. But price was an issue. And so I'm negotiating back and forth with me. At first, she wanted $55,000 for it. Well, it needed $15,000, $20,000 in work, and it was worth $65,000 total. Mm-hmm. Well, so she the crazy thing is that's when I kind of my sub 3 thing kind of started there, but I didn't realize it.
Yeah,
so she's in Nevada and everything else. So we agree on price, and we agree on $40,000. We'll be giving her $5,000 now, a $35,000 note, interest only for 3 years, and then pay her off. And I had no idea. Remember, I have no money. Mm-hmm. I'm broke. I don't have $5,000. I don't know where I'm getting $5,000 from. So that deal, she agrees to it. So I turn around and back then, the only way to get stuff signed, you send it by FedEx. So I turn around and I had a deed created, and I sent her a deed by FedEx and had her sign it. This is before I bought it. This is before I give her any money. So she signs a deed, FedExes it back to me. I own the house. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I'm an unscrupulous character, I own the house.
Yeah.
So she sends me the deed back, and then I go proceed to sell it. So then I find a buyer, and not even a buyer that I would remotely take nowadays, but I find a buyer with $5,000 down. Well, sort of. 3,500 of it, I think it was 25 or 3,500 of it, and the rest was in payments. Uh-huh. So they had to pay off their down payment, so they didn't have all their money. So I still have a problem. I still, it was 2,500. It was 2,500, and then they were paying the other 2,500, the 5,000 down in payments. So it was $65,000 sales price, and I was financing the rest. So I still don't have the 5,000 to give her yet. So then I turn around and I get them to sign a note at closing, and that was my first foray in learning how to sell part of a note.
Right.
So I sold off the first 2 years of my note, and I still remember getting that $10,168.53 check. I can still picture it to this day, because that check back then was like the biggest check I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I literally didn't go to the bank for 3 days.
You're afraid it wouldn't cash?
I was afraid it wouldn't cash. I was afraid they'd turn me down. They'd say,
"This guy shouldn't have this.
This guy shouldn't have this check. Something's wrong with him." Or
right.
It'd tell me no. Because when you're starting out, you don't know. You're afraid. It's the biggest thing I ever had. So finally, I cashed the check, and everything worked out. I sold the 2 years of the note on the front. I took the $2,500 and I moved the mobile home off the property, resold it all in all, I made like close to, it was like $35,000 over a period of 3 years on that deal. It ended up the people they refinanced after a few years, paid her off. I paid actually might be closer to $38,000, but it was a nice deal. Yep. But it was what made it so crazy was just all the moving parts. Had to buy it, had to send a deed to her, had to send a note to her, had to have her FedEx it back, had to sell the note over here, had to find a buyer. He didn't have enough money down. And during the middle deal, he filed bankruptcy. Oh my really? God! Yes, he filed bankruptcy. And back then, the good news is he worked through his bankruptcy and still was able to refinance.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So it was like this deal had all these moving parts, and I still come out okay. So it's insane because you'll go through and you'll think some of the worst things. I mean, you'll have some of the deals that you think are going to be your worst deals, and they turn out to be your best, and some of your deals that you think are going to be your best, and you realize that you were just glad you didn't do them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's totally insane.
What did that do to your confidence? So like once you were done with that, I mean, you had to have learned a lot.
I learned that seller was really, really motivated. I probably could have negotiated even a better deal, especially with the skills I have nowadays.
Yeah.
But I would have negotiated a much better deal. But that seller was motivated, and that's what made that deal work because she just needed to get something done. And yeah, what that did to my confidence is, hey, I got this done. And for me, it was all about getting an asset. And I had an asset because I had no net worth. I had a negative net worth, so I wanted to get assets in my asset column. And that's the key to this thing, getting assets in your asset column that produce cash flow. And so if you keep doing that, everything works out in the end, It just, you got to have a little delayed gratification here and there. But yeah, it was, I think about that was crazy. Because it was, like I said, so many moving parts. And back then, I had to have those moving parts. In other words, I had to buy and sell my note at closings when I first started. I had to do it. It was the only way to get a deal done.
Right.
So I learned early on that if I could sell that note at closing or part of it, it would fund the cash to purchase the house.
Right.
And that's sort of almost a lost art now.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, even some of the top owner financiers that I've talked to in the country, they don't understand partials.
No.
At all.
No. We were going to sell a partial the other day to an institution called us about buying some of our notes. So we thought, well, you know what? We'll throw a note at them and see what they say. And so we said, we want to sell you a partial. So they turn around, they come back with some partial, but I don't know if they don't understand their calculator or they're just really that greedy. But, it came back at a 39% yield. And I'm like, no, thank you. I'll keep it. I mean, if you're earning, what's his name? Who's one of the richest guys? Oh my gosh, insurance, Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah.
He's made his life on getting a 28% return. Mm-hmm. So if you go giving away 39% returns,
you're going backwards.
You're going backwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many different nuances to deals. I've had deals where I thought were going to be really good deals, and I literally paid to make them go away. Mm-hmm. I've written checks to make them go away because sometimes that's the best deal is making something go away.
Oh yeah, especially a pain in the ass seller.
Yeah. I had I'm trying to think of another cool deal I had. Probably the coolest deal I had from the standpoint of motivation was a seller I had one time. She drives down the road, she sees my bandit signs, but she didn't call me, of course. I hear about the story afterwards, and she said that when she saw like the third or the fifth bandit sign, it was a sign from God. She knew I was going to buy her house that day, and so it was on a Sunday. So she calls me on a Sunday and she says, "I need you to come out and look at my house. You're going to buy my house." So she got in her head already, I was going to buy my house. So she'd already done all the work. So I come out there, and this house is immaculate. I mean, immaculate. There's nothing wrong with it. And I said, why don't you just list it? You don't need me.
Yeah.
And I'm literally trying to talk her out of it.
Yeah, we've done it too.
Yeah. And she says, no, I'm done. We're moving to the retirement home 10 days from now. We want $4,000 and to buy beds and furniture for the retirement home. And that's it. We're done. we've already offered this to our family. Nobody wants it. We're done. You got to deal with an IRS lien and a few other things, but we're done.
Ooh, IRS lien.
Yeah. And so you know those mean profit, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So so anyway, we did the deal, and of course I had to negotiate the $4,000. I had to turn around and say, okay, well, can I give you some now, some later? Yeah, I give you $2,000 now, $2,000 later, and they said, well, yeah, okay. They agreed to it, but then of course when we got to closing, about 6-7 days later, after the whole Tyler and everything else, my business partner looks at me, kind of rolls her eyes, like, give them their money, give their damn money, give their $4,000, David. Quit this. This is a good deal. Write on the check. Don't be a jerk. So I wrote the check. So we gave them their money, and they went on, and we went on. We sold that deal. Made it was another 30,000 plus profit deal. Yeah, it was just it's weird. Let me tell you about the easiest deal I ever did.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, let me tell you the easiest deal I ever did. In fact, I don't even know if you know about this. You may, but I don't know. So the easiest deal I ever did was a note buy. The seller, the note holder had moved out of town. And I knew the note holder had moved out of town. And when I mean out of town, out of the country. And he owned this note. It was like a $40,000 note that wasn't due for 3 years. So no income for 3 years, just a $40,000 note. He gets paid sometime. So I got an option to buy that note for $30,000 for the next 90 days, knowing that the house was fixing to cash out. And so I filed my option, and then the title company calls me up and says, Mr. Alexander, what do you want to do with your option? Exercise it at the time of close. Yeah. With the proceeds from the sale. Exercise my option, and out fell $10,000.
So how much was your option fee?
Probably $10.
Probably $10. So $10 to $10,000.
Yeah, $10. Yeah,
and that's real estate for you, man.
That's real estate. Yeah. I've never. In fact, I hear these people nowadays, and that's another thing. I hear these people nowadays talking about. They're putting $1,000 earnest monies on things and $500 earnest monies on things, and I've never done that. I put $1,000 earnest money once on a $1.2 million mobile home park, but other than that, I've never written over. No, I take that back. That's a lie. No, I've never written over $10. I've never written over $10 in the earnest money deal, but usually that doesn't transfer hands because they turn around and say, "Well, what about this? Well, you can give me the $10 if you want, or but usually I just let it slide, because it doesn't matter which way earnest money goes." Right. But now I did have a house I was buying one time, and it was a federal judge. So we wrote the contract up, went to make copies. I did pull $10 in my pocket that time and hand him the $10. And he goes, consideration. But I wasn't letting him get out of the deal because I was stealing that house, Yeah. I was buying a $120,000 house for $40,000. Yeah.
So it's funny. We talk about banks and notes and loans and things like that. I was working on a property in my backyard, and I had there was an old note. It was non-performing that a bank owned, and they weren't doing anything with this note. It was just sitting there on the property. Well, I had taken the property subject to, and we had someone that was going to buy it decide to move out. That was one of the few areas in my areas that we were seeing some appreciation, and I had quite a bit of equity buried in there. But part of it was if I could get rid of the second mortgage on the property. So I called the bank and I said, hey, I want to buy this non-performing second that you have on this property. And they said, oh, that's great. What could you give us for it? And of course, we started about 2-3 cents on the dollar, right? And so I made my offer, and she calls me back and she says, no, we need to. There was a $28,000 old mortgage that should have been wiped out, wasn't, and then there was this $10,000 or $11,000 mortgage. So. And in the meantime, we're rehabbing this property. Well, we got a contract on it real quick. So the bank calls me back and he says, well, we can't take 2 cents on the dollar, but if you give us $5,000, then we can go ahead and sell you this non-performing second. And it's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I upped my offer to 5 cents because I knew I had a closing in like 60 days it was going to happen. And they came back and said, nope, the best we can do is 50%. It's like, okay, so that's not working, right? So a crazy person, they do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. So I thought, okay, I got to go about this a different route. So, and we were just over the phone, talking over the phone, and I was using my company name. So this time I said, okay, I sent a letter to the bank and I said, I'm the owner of this property. The previous owner is not involved in this, and you're clouding my title with a second mortgage. And I need to get this taken care of immediately. Here is the release of mortgage. Have your officer sign it and get it back to me immediately. And we got it back in 3 days. So the old mortgage went away. The second mortgage that was a problem, that one was like $28,000. So in a 2.5 day, 3 day time, I created another over $38,000 on that check that finally hit my bank account. That's our banks and their thinking philosophy. But they would have got something, but this way they got nothing.
Well, you asked, you didn't make them.
That's right. If you don't ask,
that's right.
It's not going to happen.
So I got another one for you. So some of my best deals are trade deals. Trade deals. When you can line up two houses together, and so you're buying a house, but then you trade them a house.
Yes, I've done that too.
Life is good.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my best deals was I negotiated a house for $42,000 cash. Now the house was worth $130,000 rehabbed. I sold that house. I ended up selling it. That one ended up selling for cash for $68,000. But they needed to buy another house, so they were getting their $42,000, and I happen to have a double wide for sale. So I'm buying their house at a discount, and I have a double wide for sale that I'm picking up for picked it up for like $70,000, and the goal I'm selling for $99,900. And I've already got a long list of people wanting to buy this double wide. So I got people wanting to put 15 down, 10 down, 20 down, all sorts of stuff. So I tell them, hey, you're going to have to put 20 down. So they got to put 20 down. So basically I trade them air. So half that 42,000, 20 of it goes away because making them put 20 down on this double wide.
Right.
So they're putting money down in air. So now they're going to owe me 80 wrapped around 70, but I only have to come up with 22 cash.
Right.
Those are some of the best deals you'll ever do, or those trade deals.
Mm-hmm.
I love those deals.
Yeah. Well, real quick, because we're about out of time, but
okay.
One of our craziest deals, we had a guy call us. He had inherited a house and he didn't want it. So this was from a radio ad. And as you guys know, because both of you guys have done radio, is that the negotiation frame's a little bit different. So that if they've heard your voice on the radio, they think you're some real estate rock star.
Well, he has a face for radio, so.
So we go and we buy this thing for rough figures. I think we buy it for 120 with 20K down, and at 0% on the balance.
Okay.
Well, about 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, he calls us and he says, "Well, guys, I've gone through my cash, but I need you to owner finance me a house." So he owner financed us a house at 0% interest, and we owner financed him a house at 7.9. And so right now, there's no payment to him because he didn't have a down payment on mine, and then the payment to us is in default. And what I did is my promissory note to him is cross-collateralized in the deed of trust with the house that he bought from us.
Perfect.
So now, not only is he going to lose this house, which I hate for him. I hate foreclosing. I know you guys do too. Mm-hmm. But it's like, we're going to have to foreclose on this house. And whenever he loses that, the only way that I would sell him this house, because I think he's kind of what do we even call this guy? Like he's something else. Is if he included in the cross collateralization my promissory note to him. So he will end up losing both.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
I don't know. All right, guys. Enjoyed it. That was fun.
That was fun. Sorry I had to jump out for a minute there, but it was a good time.
Wow. Can you guys believe those deals? And can you guys believe that the bank, just based on Jerry's behest, released a lien on the property and took zero as opposed to what Jerry was offering based on the situation? I mean, that goes to show you, everybody's scared of these banks, but most of them, we have a saying within our group, and to my banker friends and audience, I very sincerely apologize. But based on our experience, of these kinds of things happening, we have a saying in our group that says there's no brains in the four walls of a bank. All right. Again, I apologize to my banker friends, but guys, wow, what an interesting story. And those deals are crazy. And if you get into this business, and you're going to have things like that happen if you stay in this business long enough. So, all right, guys, hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. Happy investing.